are here today in front of the European Council. It's a special program, and it's the protest that has been 10 years is on now. We are here today with Paul Gavan and from the Sinn Fein and Erem Corbyn, very well-known politician from the UK. Thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's wonderful to be here, and the Council of Europe, of course, has a special role in all this, in that we elect judges to the European Court of Human Rights, and our role is, in a sense, to be custodian of the European Convention on Human Rights, and I think that's a very important function.
Dear Jeremy, I would like to start with you first. I would like to underline that most of the parliamentarians, MEPs, are talking about that Mr. Abdullah Öcalan's isolation and keeping the PKK still on the forbidden organizations list is this two different problems of the same coin, basically, two different faces of the same coin. How would you like to comment on that?
Well, they're clearly linked issues. The question of Ocalan and his treatment is highly significant. As we were walking over here, Paul and I were just talking about his case. He's now been in solitary confinement for a very long time. He's had no visitors for a very long time. I understand not even legal visits. And we're unaware of his state of health. We're unaware of what he thinks. The reality is to bring about a long-term political settlement in Turkey which respects the rights of all languages and all ethnic groupings. You have to speak to people who are the identified leaders of communities. And the continued imprisonment of Ocalan is not a step towards peace, it's a step away. And therefore, I join with Paul and many others in calling for his release so that he can be part of the political process in Turkey. Tomorrow there will be a demonstration for Turkish human rights and journalist freedom down the road here, outside the European Court of Human Rights. And on July the 3rd, I'll be speaking again about the whole issues in an event organised by Mayor in Clissold Park in Hackney in North London. And so there is a lot of activity going on, and we have to speak up for it.
Lastly, how would you like to comment on, how would you going to evaluate that Mr. Abdullah Öcalan's isolation is also against human rights, but also is an issue on the Kurdish community as well, both in Kurdistan, Turkey, as well as in diaspora as well. The criminalization policies are still on to the Kurds. Do you think European institutions has willingness and ability to solve this problem actually?
The European institutions certainly have the powers and the ability to make a great influence on these situations. Imprisonment without trial, isolation, not having communication with your legal representatives, not having communication with your families, not having access to independent medical support, all of those 5 things are contrary to the European Convention on Human Rights. So even if people don't agree with Ocalan, and there are many do, many don't, those basic principles have not been followed. So my call is that they should follow the principles on which the European Convention on Human Rights was established and the Council of Europe has been established. This is a breach of his human rights, and any human rights that's been breached is actually a breach of all of our human rights.
Thank you, dear Jeremy. If we can pass microphone to dear Paul, thank you very much. Dear Paul, thanks for accepting that, first of all, very kind of you, and welcome again.
Thank you.
So Sinn Fein had a historic victory lastly. Let's get your evaluation about that very shortly, please.
Well, we had a very successful election in the north of Ireland. Sinn Fein are now the largest party in the north of Ireland. Michelle O'Neill will be appointed First Minister as soon as an assembly can be actually got up and running, and hopefully that needs to happen sooner rather than later, because there's a lot of issues in the north that need solving in terms of healthcare, cost of living crisis and so on and so forth. And I'm also glad to report that in the south we're consistently polling as the most popular party. So we're not there yet, but we're on the potential cusp of real change. Ireland's first left-wing government in the history of our state. So hopefully exciting times ahead for Sinn Fein.
Thank you. Actually, right now we have a beautiful picture here. It's very internationalist. We have Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour background. We have Paul Yu from the Sinn Fein. And we are here last 10 years. These Kurdish communities waiting, sitting down there for freedom for Abdullah Öcalan. What is your evaluation about the isolation of Öcalan, first of all, and what is the importance of freedom for Öcalan?
Well, firstly, just to say that the first time I arrived at this assembly, I noticed this protest here. And the fact that protesters have been here for 10 years consistently every day is just so impressive in terms of showing your determination, your resilience to see Mr. Ocalan free. What's happening to Abdullah Ocalan is just shocking. I attended a lunchtime meeting yesterday, and to hear what the man's been through, and let's not forget, he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped in Kenya. The prison was built for him, and he's been locked away ever since, mostly in isolation. And as Jeremy has said, we don't even know how he is right now. This is an intolerable situation. This is a situation that nobody who believes in the European Convention of Human Rights could possibly accept. And I think I want to give a clear message that there is really strong international solidarity and a growing awareness in terms of the fact that this cannot be tolerated. I can assure you when I return to Ireland, I'll be raising the issue in the Parliament, but also raising it with my comrades within Sinn Féin. We value ourselves and see ourselves as internationalists as well as socialists. And my job when I get home is to raise the issue directly with the Minister for Foreign Affairs and impose on him the importance that while Ireland has the presidency of the Committee of Ministers, which we do until November, that we need to see action from Ireland in relation to demanding justice for Mr. Ocalan.
Another important issue, lastly and very shortly, I would like to sorry for keeping you, but another issue is about the PKK, delisting the PKK on the European Court of Justice. It has been, this case has been on yesterday at Luxembourg. Still there is the delisting every 6 months. They refresh the list, so still PKK is on the lists. So if the PKK is on the list, the isolation of Öcalan will be carry on. So do you think this is also the same problem of the same coin, different faces of the same coin, basically? What else needs to be done to solve this problem?
It is two faces of the same coin, of the same issue. And look, we in Ireland know that to move from conflict to peace, you need dialogue. You need negotiation. And that is the only way forward. And of course, Mr. Ocalan is key to that dialogue and that negotiation. We cannot make progress until we see freedom for Mr. Ocalan. And the freedom then to negotiate. We know in Ireland, we're not there yet, but we have a peaceful path now to our goal of Irish unity. That came about through negotiation, through consultation, through dialogue. And that's what we need to see. That's going to be a core message that Sinn Féin will bring back in relation to the PKK and in relation to freedom for Ocalan.
Thank you. Let's finish with Jeremy lastly. 1 minute, dear Jeremy, really sorry. What else needs to be done? What is your message to free Öcalan? What is your solidarity message with the Kurds as well? Very shortly, please.
We need peace. We get peace, as Pat quite correctly says, through dialogue. We get that by allowing those who can negotiate and lead the freedom to do that. I went through all the issues politically in Ireland, and eventually we reached a good place. We're not totally there yet, but we reached a good place because there was a willingness to negotiate. Ocalan's freedom gives us that basis on which those negotiations can take place. And so to people watching this who never thought about the issues of Kurdish people, never thought about human rights in Turkey before, think about it. Because if you think about it, you will realize the only way forward is to actually have talks. Military solutions and military occupation are never going to cut it.
Dear Jeremy Corbyn, dear Paul Gavan, thanks for joining us. Thank you for your valuable comments today.
Thank you.
Today we had in front of the European Council on the special program Paul Gavan from the Sinn Féin and very well-known politician Jeremy Corbyn. See you next time. See you on the next program.